see what brushes I want to use today. I like these little round silver black velvet ones. I usually always just paint with these two, unless I need some super tiny ones for details or a bigger one for the background. I'll just get them all out just in case. Okay, is that visible? Yep, looks good. I think I'm gonna start with his eye, just so I don't lose those tiny details once I start adding more color. So I'm gonna get some blue to do that. I don't know if you can see it, that there's a bright highlight right there. Make my brightness brighter. No, it's as bright as it goes. Okay, but there's a lot of blue right there in that eye. So I'm gonna get a very bright phthalo color. I'm going for this blue. And I love this color. The only thing is that it stains everything it touches, so I have to be careful with it. It'll stain the paper too, so like if I get it in a spot I don't want, then I'm screwed, you know, it's sticking there. And if you guys don't know me, I have wiener dogs. I just walked them, so they are calm right now and a little tired, but they are not known for being quiet. So if you hear barking or whining or whatever because I'm not currently, you know, picking them up and cuddling them, that's why. Okay, so I'm gonna do a little bit of outline here just to help me visually as I move through this eye. And I spend the most time detail-wise on eyes and animals because, you know, that's where their personality is, that's where their soul is. Everything else in the painting can be subjective, you know, just artistic license, but I feel like the eye needs to be the clearest, the most detailed, the most exact as I can get it, because that's what an owner is going to look for. You know, if I get Phil's ear slightly different than the photo, no one's going to care. But if his eyes are the wrong shape or the wrong color, and you know, someone who sees that animal every single day is going to know exactly that that's the area that is off, that is messed up a little bit. Let me know if I should put some music on too. I've got the dryer going in the background. I apologize if that is too noisy to hear, but I can put on some like streaming music too if it gets too awkwardly quiet. It is such a beautiful day out, and I've been putting off painting for too long. I went outside, I enjoyed the sunshine, and now it's like, dang, I need to work on my commissions. Most of, if not all, of my paintings lately have been commissions. So someone sends me pictures of their animal and pays me beforehand, and then I paint it. I haven't done anything for myself in a while. I've been meaning to. I've got some pictures lined up that I really want to paint, like of my own dogs. But yeah, most of what I do are dogs and then cats, and then behind that, horses. done a couple birds. What else have I done? A couple snakes. Those are kind of fun to paint. Definitely different than furry animals. And I've done a guinea pig and a couple of people, but people are scary. Like, I am terrified of painting them. I should clarify. Not people are scary in general. People are scary to paint because they're so easy to mess up. It's got like a brown blob here. And I'm probably gonna have to go back over this whole eye area and darken it even further once I start adding in color on the face and everything. Because right now, when it's just the white of the paper surrounding the eye, it looks dark enough, like it looks correct. But once I start adding in those other values, it'll be pretty clear to see like this eye isn't done, it needs more paint. Hello, Michael. Thanks for popping in. Sorry if I'm a little slow at responding to chats. I'm trying to remember to read them more often. I don't have my phone in front of me right now because it's recording. So I'm trying to, I have it up on my computer, so it's just a little bit behind. Being an artist, I am not like big into the tech side of everything, so streaming and trying to record my process and everything like that is so out of my realm of what I'm used to. But with the way everything goes lately, like you got to record your content to be able to be visible and get more clients. I don't know, it's just the way it goes. Normally there goes my dryer. It sings for so long. Normally a painting of this size, this is a 7 by 10, I'd say it would take me like 8 to 10 hours, but let's see if I can get it done faster, because I think it takes me that long when I am on my phone. If I'm not on my phone, then I'm not gonna get as distracted and I'll be able to finish it a bit faster. I like to put a little bit of the hair texture down underneath my main color washes. I just feel like it makes it blend nicer. And for horses, since they're so smooth on their face, it's important to not overwork and put too many layers down. You want to hit the sweet spot and just get the like 1 or 2 layers of paint down. Otherwise it starts looking really sloppy. And they just have such smooth, short fur that you just want a wash of color, so there's not as much texture. For animals that have really long, shaggy fur, like long-haired cats or dogs, it's okay to keep adding paint, keep adding paint, keep adding paint. It's not gonna, I think it adds to it, because they have all those layers of fur. Okay, I think I'm trying to discern what these white spots are supposed to be on his eyes. I think they need to be just a lighter brown, and then everything else needs to go darker. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me. I just want to make sure I'm doing this correctly. mentioned earlier how most of my paintings are paid commissions. This one is actually a little bit different, a little bit more unique. This is the horse of a friend I've made on social media that we've followed each other's artwork for a while. She creates these adorable clay creatures, you know, cats and mostly horses, but we had been following each other for a while last year on social media, and I proposed that we do an art trade. So she created the cutest little clay, like Pegasus fantasy horses for me, just like little statues. And I, in exchange, sent her a painting of one of her black cats, and black and white tuxedo cats. However, like, I feel like I botched it. Like, I did not like the way it turned out at all. I overworked the paper, and it didn't look, it was not my best work. Did not like it. And she was so kind about it, and she, you know, claimed she loved it and was very happy to receive it, but I was unhappy with that result. So I am doing this kind of as a surprise for her and redoing a portrait. And I went and like looked at all of her social media, and I found this amazing photo of her horse, Phil, and it's been a long time since I painted a horse, so I'm doing this as like a surprise for her. I think she does follow me here on YouTube though, so there is a chance that she comes across this live stream and the surprise is gone, but that's okay. I think she would enjoy watching. I don't have a set technique of like beyond, I do the eyes early on in the painting, and then beyond that, I just let my brain pop around to whatever I want to do in that moment. This piece of paper, I accidentally, as you can see, I got some pink paint on it. I don't know when, but it's not gonna end up showing through. And if it does, it'll just be like the faintest little hint of color. It won't be a big deal at all. And watercolor paper, it's not cheap. So I wanted to still find a way to get some use out of it. Okay, and then I think I want to do the nostril. Hi, how are you? Hi, Zentangle. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for leaving a chat too. Sometimes it gets hard just like talking to myself this whole time. Okay, I'm gonna do the nostril first. I like doing super dark spots so it gives me like an idea of how dark the rest of the painting needs to go. So I'm gonna do this little sketched in dark area I had mapped out for myself in my sketch. Again, I'm sorry if my dogs bark. They are dachshunds and they're not known for being quiet. I'm surprised they have stayed so quiet. Thank you. This is a friend's horse that I'm painting as a surprise for her. She has so many amazing pictures of him on her social media. I had like 20 different pictures I wanted to paint of him. Ultimately, I decided on this one because I really like the harsh shadows on his nostril, under his ear here, and then under his neck. I have painted horses in the past with really harsh lighting that ended up looking really good. I have some examples right here. So, you know, at first I would not like a photo like this because of the harsh sunlight, but after painting it, like, I just love how dramatic it looks. And same with this one. This is one of my favorite paintings ever. These are just photographs of it. But the shadow from the ear and from all the halter that he's wearing and the hair, makes it so much more interesting to look at. So that's ultimately why I chose that photo. Even though it's just an iPhone photo, it had the best details. And I look for ones that have like all the whiskers visible, and especially any sort of details in the eyes visible. So often, like because horses are so big, people take the photo further away from the horse, and that means their face has like lost all the detail in the photo, and especially the eyes are just, they end up being like a black ball on the photo and with no detail for me to paint. Again, let me know if I should put some music on or something. Okay, so those are the two main shadows. You can kind of see them there on his nose. A couple little like triangle shapes there. I'll leave those there for now. And I'm gonna get a really dark brown to do that deep inner shadow of his ear. If you mix blue and brown together, like a burnt sienna or a burnt umber, and any sort of blue you have, it gets a really nice deep dark color. And with watercolor, it always dries lighter than it goes on. So even though it looks super dark right now, I'll probably have to go back over it again to get it the color, you know, the actual darkness I want. My dog is downstairs scratching at the door to be let out, even though I just walked him. And I think he peed on 30 different bushes, but it's never enough. And then that shadow across his mane there, it's basically like, if you look at it, it's just black. There's no detail. So I don't need to worry about trying to paint in those individual mane hairs, because they don't actually exist to our eyes. It's just like going to be a dark shadow. So yeah, once I get all my main large dark areas done, oh, there's one more on his mouth there. Look how dark that is. That's basically black. Then I go back in and start doing the like middle of the middle value colors. I was trying to check if you guys could actually hear me, because I have done that before where I've been like talking the entire time and find that I had muted myself. Okay, I think that's all the main super dark areas on him. So I'm gonna go for a nice bright orange in the sunshine there. I'll end up going darker over here. I'm just gonna soften that edge so I don't have paint drying in a hard line. My dog is driving me nuts. Can you guys hear him scratching? I just walked him. He's like, oh, you're gonna go on live on the internet to everybody and can't get up and walk away? Okay, I'm gonna scratch relentlessly at the back door. It's rude, Tuna. Very rude. Ooh, that is too brown. I definitely need more orange. There we go. And then these are shadows of hairs. And then there's another faint shadow of hair over here. need to clean this palette out real quick. It's driving me nuts because there is opaque paint in there right now, which means like paint that it's not as transparent as the colors I'm using, and it's changing all the color I keep choosing. Today's like the first, okay, this weekend was really beautiful too, but it's a beautiful day right now in Seattle. It's sunny, it's like almost 70 right now. And I almost need to turn the air conditioning on because it's a little toasty up here in my studio. Okay, that should be better. I had like leftover paint of this in the palette, and I love this for finishing at my details, but when it starts mixing with the colors that I want to put down first, it totally changes the way they behave, like the way they flow. So I needed to clean that out. Okay. So I think this color is actually a really good match for the dark areas on him. I just want to make sure it's not too granulating. I don't like the way granulating paint looks. I don't like seeing the texture. See, once I start painting over that pink, you can't even see that spot of paint there. Oops, I got a hard edge drying down here. Try and scrub that out. Well, that sucks. That looks bad right there. Well, just keep adding layers and it'll get less noticeable. This isn't the final correct color yet either, at least looking at that photograph. I like using my iPad for the reference photo because I can long press on an area of the photo and then check the color wheel and see, okay, it's a really dark orangish brown for that shadow there. And it helps me choose what colors I want to paint in that area. These red horses though, I always have an issue with getting dark enough on certain areas of their body without like overworking the paint and the paper and making it look granulated and gross. So I'm gonna try and do it in just like one go this time. Yeah, I can already tell that that is not gonna be dark enough. It's gonna need another layer for the shadow. And I make it harder on myself because I use hot press watercolor paper, but I just love how smooth it looks, and especially with these smooth coated animals, I think it looks nicer than cold press or, you know, rough watercolor paper where you can really see that texture of the paper through the paint. Okay, and then then this whole area is technically a shadow, but it like lightens up to a glowing orange in here. And this one little band underneath his body. Yeah, I still don't, it's nowhere near dark enough. I'm gonna have to do another layer, unfortunately. Just run the risk of making it look overworked. And then I haven't decided. I don't think I'm going to go super detailed on this area of his body. I think I'm just going to leave it more up to interpretation, maybe some splashy color over here, because this is, you know, his belly that I'm painting way in the background right now. I actually already just accidentally went out of the lines I set for myself for painting that. Whoops. Okay, so that right there is why I don't like granulating paints. Can you see that like weird pattern the paint left? Like that is not what fur looks like. So I'm gonna re-wet that and fix that and maybe just go over more orange in general. Bigger brush. I love this orange color. It just glows. I haven't found a really good like burnt red brownish color that doesn't do that granulating. Okay, so that's a little less granulated looking there. It's still probably not dark enough. Like looking at this color compared to the photograph, this is the color of like what this body area should be. So. Ooh, that is really orange. Hopefully that was not a mistake. I'm not too worried about going out of the lines here because that'll just get covered by background. All right, the painting is definitely going into the ugly stage. It's definitely like a hear me out kind of moment. You gotta wait for it, wait for it to start looking good. It's not there yet. Ooh, that needs to go darker. I'm painting the shadow underneath his mane right now. His mane is like actually a dark color, but since this photo is taken in direct sunlight, it really washes it out and kind of makes the illusion of it being like a light brown, light gray on that photograph. So hopefully it translates well into the painting. These are more shadows right here, not the actual hairs themselves. Thank you, Max. I'm dying up here. It is so hot in this studio right now, though. I just really wanted to sit next to the sunshine and the window, and now I'm kind of regretting moving my desk over here because I am cooking. You know, it was great for the winter, but now that the sun is back out again in Seattle, I'm really hot. Hi, Shark Princess. Thank you. I'm hoping it turns out good. I'm concerned about this area right here. I think I've already overworked it. I think I kind of hit the limit on what the paper can accept in that area already. This area here, I'm just gonna go over with white paint to make those hairs stand out, so I don't worry about painting over the lines there. Whoops, unplugged my dryer. One sec. So now that I've added paint right here, I can see that this dark spot needs to go darker. And that's just kind of how I do my whole painting, is bouncing around, darkening one area, and then it makes it obvious that I need to adjust another. And I just keep tweaking little bits of the painting like that until I feel like it's finished. And that's probably my number one tip with watercolor, is that you can always go darker. And I tell myself all the time, it's not ugly, it's just not finished. Lots of times I want to quit because, like, at this stage, I personally don't think it looks good, but it's just a matter of pushing through the ugly stage and honestly just darkening all the areas. Thanks for sticking around to watch, hang out with me. Normally I'll put like music on with these, but the music you're allowed to use on YouTube for streaming sucks. So I just didn't want to do it this time. Like, it's just always like lo-fi, and I don't want to listen to lo-fi for 2 hours straight. Oh, I unplugged my dryer. Trying to remember what these shapes were supposed to be when I sketched them in. I think this one here is darker. I think that's what I was going for. Like, it's a shadow. I haven't decided what I want to do for the background yet, but I think I'm going to pull in some of this like teal and maybe the green from the background, because he's got this teal in his eye, and I feel like that might be a nice way to complement and tie it all together. the last time I painted horses, I think I was honestly better at being looser with the style and just kind of like, you know, splashing paint down and letting it be more impressionistic. I don't know if that's the right term, but not spending so much time hung up on each little detail. And I'm struggling right now trying to force myself to not do that, you know, to not sit on one little area. Because really, the only area that matters to do that is the eyes, maybe the nose area. So now that you see, I've got this dark area from here on his mouth in. It definitely shows I need to go darker over here because this is supposed to be even darker than this area on his face. Paying attention to too much detail. Yeah, there's a watercolor artist on YouTube that I love watching, that she paints mostly animals too, and she's so good at just like playing with watercolor and splashing paint down and using like a big brush so she's not, you know, doing too many small little details with a tiny brush. And I'm envious of her skill of being able to just splash paint down and it still looks so exact. Like it still looks like the animal, but there's so much movement in the artwork because of all the paint splashes and splatters and randomness of it. She's very good. Really, I should just like, you know, the way to practice it is set a timer and give yourself like only 5 minutes to work on a painting, and your brain starts focusing on like what details are actually important. It's a good way to practice. Her name is, here, let me look it up real quick. I want to say it's Rachel's Watercolor Studio. It is, her channel is Rachel Parker Varner. And she has a Facebook group too that she'll like engage with you and critique paintings, and it's a pretty nice community. Hi, Tiara. Thanks for stopping in. Is it a beautiful spring day where you guys are, too? It's been so nice today. Windy. Yeah. Surprisingly, it's not windy here right now. I feel like usually it is windy out here in Washington, but it's been so nice. Makes me so excited for summer. It's been nice seeing the sun after like 5 months without the sun up here. Like, I love the Pacific Northwest rainy green of the winter. Like, it doesn't get really cold, it just gets rainy and gray, but everything still stays green. I love that. However, I did miss the sun. It's really almost like white here on his face. So I'm trying to avoid adding too much color to it. So I'm going really faint and drying between washes frequently so I can kind of control where the pigment stays. And it's almost pinkish through here. So maybe I'll add just a tinge of some quinacridone rose pigment. And then, yeah, this area, ooh, that's too orange, so water that down. There we go, that's a bit more correct. Watercolor is like baking, you know, you can always add more flour, but you can't take it away. You can always add more layers, but as soon as you do too much, you can't paint over it again or take it away like you can sometimes with acrylic paint or oil paint. We can just paint over stuff. Thank you. That is specifically why I chose this photo, because you can see how clearly those veins and muscles pop. Horses are so hard to get a good face photo of from people for painting, but I love it. This girl I'm painting it for, she had so many photos of Phil that I had so many good ones to choose from. But yeah, I chose it specifically because I did like the harshness of the sunlight on this one. I thought it gave it some visual interest. And then I liked the way his veins pop. Sometimes with horses, since they're so big, if the picture is taken from further away, you lose all the details on their face. And like, you can paint it as more of just a scene of a photo, like a scene of a horse standing in a field, but then you lose the personality, I think, of what you get from their eyes and the way their ears are positioned and being able to see all the whiskers on their muzzle. Shark Princess 3000, love the username, by the way. You mentioned putting too much detail into art. What kind of art do you do? Ooh, that needs to be more purple. Still a little too red. You do mostly traditional and you draw people and sometimes animals, trying to get into buildings. I am terrified of painting people. I am not good at it. So that's awesome that you can do that. Do you do like oil paint or acrylic paint? And then yeah, watercolor is definitely my favorite. I think at this point it's just because I'm better at watercolor than I am at acrylic or oil because oh shoot, look what I just did. Because I have spent more time doing watercolor. I want to learn oil. I just haven't wanted to like worry about all the fumes and things like that. And then with acrylic, I make such a mess. Like it's just my art table looks like a war zone and it stains everything. And at least with watercolor, I feel like I can control it a bit better. Trying to get into buildings. I honestly, I've done a few commissions of like houses and apartment buildings for people as gifts, and I really liked doing it because you don't have to worry about like if you slightly mess up the way the building looks like, it still looks like that building. But if you mess up slightly an animal's eye that somebody looks at every single day, they're gonna notice. Like they're gonna be able to see that difference. So I feel like with buildings, there's a little bit more grace on messing up because it'll still look artistic, I think. And there's a good market for like selling um, artwork of different buildings or like having commissions of it done. Like realtors have commissioned me a couple times before as a gift for their clients for buying or selling a house. Um, I've had a lot of like military family members who move a lot request little paintings and or digital drawings of their house, so it's easy, relatively easy to get commissions of those. Yeah, I use watercolor too because it's just the mess is contained to right here. And then when I want, my computer's right in front of me and like I can just use it without worrying about getting paint all over everything and it's all on one desk. But when I do acrylic, you know, I have to get the easel out and put plastic down on the walls and the floor like I'm in an episode of Dexter. Trying to mix the right color for this middle area in his nostril where it's almost purple. And then around it, it's like blue. Maybe more of a gray than a blue. trying to not go too dark too fast. And then I think these are hairs right here, which I didn't know horses had hair inside their nostrils like that, so that's funny. Well, now that I've painted around this dark nostril area, I can see I should definitely go darker on the shadow underneath his nostril. And then it's pretty dark around here too. All the neighbor kids are outside right now playing in the sun. It's so sweet. Everyone in Seattle just goes crazy when the sun comes back out. Like every park and bike trail is just filled. I didn't know this before moving up here, but a lot of houses out here don't even have air conditioning because I guess, like up until recently, it didn't get hot enough to need it. We rented one house when we first got out here before realizing we needed the air conditioning that didn't come with air conditioning. And yeah, we lasted one summer in that before we were like, we need to move. I do not want to do this again. This like front part of his nose is so many different colors. It goes from like yellow to blue. I think some of that's kind of like reflection from maybe the gravel underneath. But I've seen in other pictures of him too, his mouth goes really pale right there. The heat rises to your room. Oh yeah, growing up, I grew up in Missouri, and we get really hot summers out there. My room was above the garage, and it faced south, so the sun would just bake my room, and then all the heat from the garage would rise directly up into it, and it was miserable trying to sleep there at night. I'm gonna need to change my water out here soon. It's getting pretty orange. I think I'll be able to finish the rest of Phil, but once I start working on the background, which is going to be like a tealish, greenish color, I won't want orange tinged water because that'll just make everything look muddy. I don't love this little dark spot I just painted in. And of course it's sticking. Ugh. Ooh, good question. This is the image of the original reference photo with my sketch overlaid. I don't know if you can see here. You can see some of my shapes there. So I use a projector to do commissions specifically, so I get the proportions exactly right. And then I just take a screenshot of the projector app with the sketch I did, with the photo perfectly overlaid. So I didn't used to always do it this way, but I found it's been really helpful for, you know, say I'm looking at this really faint line right here in the middle of his face, and I'm like, what was I trying to do there? You know, what was that area supposed to be? And I can zoom in and I can see exactly like a map. Like, oh, okay, so exactly to this spot and then to this line right here, it's dark. And I can get things more exact that way. So this still needs to go darker. Kind of forgot about that spot. It's almost purplish too, so let's get some more pink mixed in there. And then if I accidentally go over any of the spots I was supposed to leave bright white, I'll just use, you know, some opaque white paint at the end to fix it. I was worried about this being too orange at the beginning, but I think now that I'm adding all the other colors in, it kind of looks correct. Because he's not an orange horse, he's like a dark red horse. I don't know what the official coloring term is. And he has some dapples too in the right lighting. But I specifically chose a photo that didn't show his dapples because they look too hard to paint. And there were some other really good photos with interesting lighting and like a good pose, but it didn't have this little white flash visible on his face, and I wanted to make sure to get that in because, I don't know, I have a dog with a tiny little white flash on his forehead too, and those are my favorite photos when that part of him is visible, so I figured it's probably same for Phil the horse and his owner. I like streaming because it's easier than just recording a full process video of this. I don't have to edit anything after, and I'm still, you know, engaging on social media. So on days when I just don't have the energy to post on social media or create a whole YouTube video, I feel like this is still a good halfway point. You know, I still get to engage with people. I still get to create content because YouTube will save this so people can watch it back later. And so I've been doing a lot of lives lately, like this past few months. I have 2 wiener dogs. I post them all the time. They're the first dogs that I started painting that got me into doing pet portraits. Here, I'll show you. this is Murphy, and this is Tuna, and these were like one of the first watercolor paintings I ever did. And I just stuck with one color because I didn't know how to choose colors back then. And then since then, I've painted them so many times. So this is another early one of Murphy. And this is my favorite one of Tuna. But yeah, I paint them all the time. And they're very good at posing for me so I can get good photos of them. I post them all the time on, Tuna has his own Instagram, so I used to be better at it, but it's Tuna_the_Dachshund on Instagram. Lots of cute photos. And I love them, and I love wiener dogs, but I will probably never have wiener dogs again after these guys, because oh my goodness, they are not easy dogs. This whole cheek needs to go so much more orange. Maybe more reddish orange. I've been avoiding this area because it's going to be the easiest to mess up, and it's also like the area that matters the most, because that's, I mean, this little tiny part in the center is where our eyes are going to go first. So I think I just need to start really light and go slow, and see there's like a little 90-degree angle, at least a straight line right here. I'm gonna go even lighter. And then this continues up and kind of meshes into an orangish color. Oops, it's almost bad. Sounds like my dogs finally suckered my husband into letting them outside. We'll see if they're good boys about it. If the neighbor kids are outside, they're gonna bark at them. The hair is gonna be the last part I do, I think. I want to get all the colors correct underneath the hair first before I start doing teeny tiny details that I might have to fix later. So I'm just doing the shadowy bits, the darkest bits around the hair. I think this is technically called the forelock, not the mane. I don't know. Someone who knows more about horses should correct me. Okay, now I need to do this area. So looking at the photo, it's not a full, like it's not as bright as down here or down here, which is incorrect because right now in my painting, this is brighter than this and that's backwards on the photo. So I'm just gonna do a wash of color. Scrub out the ends so I don't have any hard edges forming when the paint dries. This needs to go darker. The heat right now is not helped by using this thing. This thing is cooking me. It's almost like a little rectangle of darker pink right here. And then a little line right here going up to the eye. Some more dark right here. So yeah, I'm going really faint right now because I can always add more later. But if I go too dark, then it's ruined in that area. I'm not going to go crazy on fur texture, but I will add little hints of at least the fur direction here and there. And I don't know what I was doing with this right here, so I need to fix that. It is not that bright. And this ear is facing away from us, so there's not going to be any dark hole in the middle. It's just the back, flat back of his ear with a couple of shadows here and there for the fold. This area is also going to be covered by some wispy hairs, so it's not super important to get every detail correct over here. I'm just trying to get the value, the color correct, or the light and dark areas at least. All right, I'm almost ready to do the background, I think. Because once I do the background, then I'll do the mane, because the mane will be over the top of the background. But I do need to finish this first. What is this? This is just pale orangish color. Same with this here. This area still looks funny to me, so I'm gonna go in and try and soften this edge. Maybe add, ooh, that's not good. That was too much. There's little spots of dark right here that I'm trying to figure out where they are on this painting. So I've got this line here. I could probably go darker. And this main shadow line along here, I think it's right there. His nostril definitely needs to go darker. Ooh, that's too dark. Whoops. Okay, I think I'm ready to start the background color. So bear with me, I need to go switch my water out because I'm gonna use cool colors and warm tinted water is gonna clash with that. Clean my brushes a little bit first. Get some extra paper towels because my backgrounds end up being messy. And then give me like 30 seconds. I gotta go get more water. Okay, fresh water. And I want to clean out some palettes for this for the same reason, so I don't get muddy colors. And we have some options for backgrounds. So let me grab a couple examples to show you guys of what I'm thinking. Okay, so these are photographs, and I have more posted on my social media too, but these are some of my favorites of other reddish horses I've done. So there's this one where I did just like splashes, and then I left a lot of the white of the paper visible through. And this one is more similar, where he I don't know what the horse this was, is in bright sunlight with like harsh shadows, and I left a big corner of it white, and I'm wondering about doing that here. So I think, yeah, so the sun is coming, the light is coming from this direction here and going this way. So it would be similar, where I leave this area a lot lighter, and then I could do like a really dramatic dark blue and green over here. And it's the same concept I did with this one as well. Or I could go more natural and muted and earthy and not super bright. But now that I'm like talking through it, I think I do like these two versions the best, of leaving one bright corner and then making it super dramatic over here. What do you think? And then maybe like just some splashes of green through there. I hope I can do this style again, because this was from like 2024 when I painted these, and my style has definitely changed, so hopefully I can mimic that again. You know, like the bright more, yeah. And that's the thing with backgrounds and watercolor, like I should just start with the bright, because I can always add more. But if I start with like super dark right away, then the decision's made for me. You know, I can't change it. Okay, this is always the scary part. So I'm gonna start on this side and looking at my colors. I'm gonna stick these up too as inspiration. So looking at the colors that I have, I think I might need to get some fresh paint out, because these I have muddied them a lot with some green paint. So I need some new yellows out. And maybe some like really warm golden colors, like maybe cadmium or a yellow ochre. I think I need a yellow ochre out, because that gives a really warm golden look. Yellow ochre. Some cadmium yellow. And then Hansa yellow or cadmium yellow light. I want those. Oh, here we go. Because this, no, I want Hansa yellow. I may not have that one anymore. I need a better system than this bucket. Hey, there it is. This is one I found on Facebook Marketplace with a bunch of other paint supplies from an elderly artist that had passed away. Her son was selling all of her super high quality art supplies, and like thousands of dollars of art supplies. I didn't know at the time, for like $35. So I got some really nice brushes and some vintage. Like this is probably 20 or 30 years old, this tube of paint. Some vintage colors I got to experiment with. I don't need a lot, because whenever I squeeze it out of the tube, I always end up wasting it. I just want some cleaner versions than what is in my pan right now. See, that is probably too much already. You can see that's way too much. That's like several paintings worth. That's why I like putting them in pans, because I don't waste it that way. But yeah, just they get muddy and messy in those pans. Okay. Let's add some water. So with the backgrounds, I do try and be more loose and playful and not be so tight and exact on where I put paint down. So I'm going to put water down first and then put paint down to increase the movement. Ew, I don't like that. That's like brown. Pick that up. Don't like that. Guess I didn't need the yellow ochre after all. Okay, let's go with this one. That's better. For those of you that can see the chat right now, Logan, who just commented, she's who owns this horse here. So she saw it, she found it. I thought about just mailing it as a surprise, but I'm happy she can see the, the process behind it too. Okay, so I'm gonna do darker down below in the corners and just kind of do a gradient down there. Similar to these here. I think that's just a hair. Yeah, so I'm just going to paint over those lines because those are just hairs. I can add them back in later. And what colors do I want? That sap and that olive green is too brownish. I think I want more sap or hooker's green because those have, yeah, like a bluer tint to them or a more vivid green tint. I really like these phthalo greens and blues like this right here, except they stain. So if I want to like scrub it out later, I can't because it stains the paper so potently, vividly, strongly. I don't know what the right word is there, but I do need to go really dark down here because I accidentally painted outside the lines of his body, so I want to cover that up. But mixing some like indigo or Payne's gray will always give it a nice dark green. I don't like that bluish now that I see that right there, so I'm gonna cover that up. Greens always look good too with red horses. usually the background I go for with a red animal. Some sort of green. Okay, I'm gonna put more splashy water down over here. Again, I'm not really gonna care if I accidentally paint over that fur a little bit with the mane. I'm just gonna use white paint to create those hairs later. Ooh, don't like that. That was a mistake. I'm gonna try and play around with like putting some of the similar color from this ear onto the background so it looks like the color is bleeding out and maybe softens the effect a little bit. Because that's what I did here on this horse. You can see that I let the back of the horse just kind of bleed into the background. And I like that effect, so I'm trying to do it again. Just trying to mimic maybe some sun rays coming through. But that doesn't look like anything. I'm gonna erase that. Don't like that, so I'm just gonna lift some of that color out. Do you think I should go darker? Is it not as dramatic? Or do you like how light it is? I mean, this needs to be actually painted in. What was that line? Is that part of him? The heck did I draw there? Where's that paint? I can't tell. I think I drew part of the fence in. Okay, so I'm just gonna paint over that. decide on if I should go darker or not. I know it's a hard choice because I run the risk of ruining it, you know? Okay, I think going forward, I need to do his hair, these hairs, and then I think he's not dark enough. I think he looks like a cream colored horse right now, so I might do like a whole wash of color to kind of darken him up, because this is definitely like, that's too, I'll just do that right now. He needs more dark to that. He's a dark red boy. I've seen in all of his other photos, he's got some really pretty colors. And then he's like, in different photographs, he has completely different colored hair in every picture. Some has dapples, some he has like black feet visible, I think, or black ankles visible, or like he gets darker. And then some photos are older, or he's been clipped recently and has longer fur. Some he's really shiny and like he looks like a show horse in. I missed a really dark spot right there. It's like almost black. Whoops, that was the wrong color right there. Because that is still part of his face, but underneath it's a lot darker. feeling it. I want to just finish though. I don't want to take a break. I just want to be done. This looks funny. I feel like I'm just gonna go dark. And blend the horse into the background slash foreground a little bit here. And then I'm gonna add paint splatters at the end in this corner. And I think that'll help. I don't know if you can tell, but I've been putting off doing the hair because that is going to be the most annoying and the trickiest to get looking right. See, like that's already the wrong color. Maybe more reddish right now, purplish. And it's hard because it, like in these areas where the sun is hitting it directly, it's white right there. And he doesn't have a white mane. He's got a dark colored mane. So it's just a little bit of like a trick on the eyes. I don't know what's going on right here, but that looks incorrect. What did I have sketched there? Okay, so this still needs to go darker on his face. Often when I paint a horse, they're wearing a halter, like in this example here. And I think that is kind of like a cheat into making the painting look good. Like it's always going to look good if they have gear on. It's just like putting jewelry on the painting, in my opinion. And even if the painting, you know, if the animal itself isn't perfect, it's my eye enjoys looking at all the gear that they're wearing, and it's always harder when I have a painting that or a horse that isn't wearing anything, because all of the focus is on the horse itself, if that makes sense. So this is a shadow right here, and the rest of this is the mane that is lighter than the area around it. And these are shadows. And I want a thinner brush for, and they're almost black, which is scary because I don't want to paint black onto his face. Well, I hope that ends up looking correct and didn't just ruin that. And this isn't a black hair again, that's just a shadow. Okay, I think I need to make everything darker first. Like, it's just throwing me off right now that this is not dark enough, I think. Or not red enough? I think it should be pinker. I think this is correct, but up here should be darker. Okay, bear with me. I gotta pull up another picture of Phil because I need to see what color his mane is. Okay, it's almost like the same exact color as his fur, like orangey, reddish, red. Is it darker? Okay, in this picture it's definitely darker than him. It's like literally every photo of him. In this picture it's lighter than his fur and it's like blonde. It is a different color in every picture. Okay, I'm just gonna keep it similar then. Maybe darker in some spots. Lighter in others. I know in this area on his forehead, it's definitely lighter than the reference photo. So I'm gonna use white paint for that. And right here. His nostril can go darker again. Same for right here. Hello, Lucifer. Thank you. This horse's name is Phil. And right now I'm working on making the mane look correct. And then kind of tweaking details here and there. I don't love the way the mane looks right now, but I think once I start adding some white paint, it'll look correct. Hi, Bella. Thanks for commenting and stopping by to watch. What kind of art do you do? Look what I just did, you guys. Oh my goodness. Not the first time I've done that, by the way. I just can't believe I did that. Though. It's alright, look, I scrubbed it up. We're good. Silly mistake, though. That's why I use this dryer most of the time, so I don't put my hand in it and then stamp it all over the paper. Okay, where was I? I think I was working on this part of his head. Wonder if I make the background a little bit darker, it'll look more correct, because that hair is supposed to be white right there. So it doesn't make sense to have white hair on a white background. So I'm gonna add some green. Make sure all the paint is dry off my hand before I stamp it all over the painting again. Okay. Let's do this. And then blend it out a little bit. Maybe some paint splatters. I don't want to extend that green out here. I don't want to do too much because I wanted to keep this corner the brightest corner of the painting, and actually it looks like I've messed up and made this the brightest corner. So I'm going to have to add some color on the opposite side to fix that balance, because in the reference photo this is where the light is coming from. Okay. just trying to make the background look similar to these, where it's really loose and ethereal and kind of like a forest almost, but subjective. And a big part of doing that is lost edges. So the, his butt here and his ear here that are further away from the viewer aren't going to be as in detail when you want to look at it in like an artistic way, at least in my style. So I try and blur the edges of those a little bit just for like visual interest, and put random colors in. And I want it to seem like dappled, bright light, so that's what I'm trying to keep it brighter over here and darker over here. But every time I make this corner darker back by his butt, I have to blur out the edge of his butt again. And it's like a balance between doing that and getting the right colors you want and not overworking the paper. I don't like this, so I'm gonna try and scrub some of that out. It's a little too yellow right there. And then maybe I'll add a little bit of green. Splatters or something. Cover the face because I'm going to do some of these. I don't want it to like land right in the middle of his face. I'm just going to let that dry on its own a little bit because I want to create a little bit of a hard edge. There's still a little too much water pooling right there, but here and there I'll let the water pool and create, you can kind of see this hard line that the pigment settled in and created a hard edge, and I think it looks visually interesting than smooth everything everywhere in the whole painting. They're called like watercolor blooms or cauliflowers, call them. Some people really hate them and do everything they can to avoid them. But this kind of paper is hot press paper, so it gets these blooms really easily. And I've seen some watercolor painters that will do like their entire portrait of an animal with these super hard edges, and like they really lean into that hard bloom. But I just like how it gives a little bit of depth. Like this looks definitely like it's further or closer ahead or on top of the paint below it. This part takes the longest. It's the final point in my paintings, doing these little white highlights. But it makes the biggest difference once I get these all in. It really, in my opinion, makes everything just pop like crazy. I haven't tried this specific technique though on a horse yet. I've only ever done it with cats and dogs. I can already tell I need to go back and fix the mane. I need to add some darker colors to it. It's just difficult when it's in direct sunlight like this because it really changes what the actual colors look like. Thank you, Addison. Trying to get his colors right because he is not that orange in real life. Like, he's more of a brown, like leans more towards brown than orange. It's just that he's getting hit by direct sunlight, so it's a little tricky to get that color perfect. But I chose this photo intentionally because I loved the way the sunlight looked. Now I'm kind of regretting that a little bit, but that's how it goes. Just trying to look at where I need to adjust next. You know, what isn't quite right still. Almost done though. I'm just finishing these shadows from his hair. Kind of looks like hair strands itself, but it's actually just the shadow of the hair. And I think it's important to include because I picked this photo of Phil because of the harsh sunlight. Like, I really liked how interesting that looked. So I can't just leave out the shadows that help the eye see that it's harsh sunlight, if that makes sense. Thank you, Candace. Right now I'm just like scrubbing out some edges to give them a watercolor effect of like blurriness and lost edges here and there. And these areas where the light is hitting him directly are good for that. And it works well for me right now too, because I don't like that side of the painting. I feel like the colors are weird. So scrubbing them out, while it does damage the paper at the very end, I like doing it just to make it more blurry and soft and whimsical. Ooh, my back. Alright, now comes the fun part. He has so many hairs. are a lot of hairs right here that are really faint, so I need an even smaller brush. Ugh, I don't like the way that looks. It's tricky to make them look different, like they look too uniform. The brush was driving me crazy. It was like no paint would stay on it. It's gonna be too big for that one. Alright, I'm just gonna go back to this one I was at originally. Thanks.